We are told that ancient civilizations moved the heaviest stones on Earth thousands of years ago using ropes, wooden rollers, and brute force. But only a few hundred years ago, one of the most powerful empires on Earth attempted the same thing with metal tools, engineers, written plans, and state funding. What they achieved nearly broke them. This is the story of the Russian Thunderstone, and why it completely destroys the idea that ancient megaliths were built with primitive technology. In the late 18th century, Empress Catherine the Great wanted to secure her legacy. She ordered the construction of a monumental statue of Peter the Great, what would later be known as the Bronze Horseman. But she did not want an ordinary pedestal. She wanted a single colossal stone, larger than anything ever moved by human hands. The stone was found near the Gulf of Finland, buried partially in the earth, over 6 kilometers from the sea. It was enormous, originally estimated at around 1,500 tons. To put that into perspective, this was heavier than the unfinished obelisk at Aswan. And unlike ancient monuments, this project was fully documented. We know who did it, we know how long it took, we know the tools they used, and we know exactly how close it came to failure. This was by no means primitive labor. This was 18th century engineering at the edge of what was possible. The stone had to be excavated from a pit using massive iron screwjacks in brass housings, tempered iron chisels, and solid iron hammers to free it from the bedrock, oak sleds reinforced with iron to slide it, and bronze spheres to roll it across the frozen ground, each tool pushing the limits of human ingenuity. They waited for winter because the soil needed to be solid enough to support the sheer weight. Even then, progress was painfully slow. The sled ran on metal rails. The movement relied on bronze spherical bearings. Ropes snapped repeatedly. Iron components failed under the load. At one point, iron bearings were crushed completely and had to be replaced with bronze alloys after trial and error. Screwjacks were used to lift the stone. Without them, the project would have ended immediately. The stone could not have even been removed from the ground. This was not brute force by any means. This was precision planning, metallurgy, mathematics, and constant problem solving, and it still took 2 years just to get the stone to the water. Once the Thunderstone reached the coast, the difficulty did not end. A special barge had to be built just to carry it. The barge itself was so unstable that it had to be supported on either side by full-size warships to stop it capsizing. All of this for a stone that would later be carved down dramatically. By the time it arrived in St. Petersburg, over 1,000 tons of material had already been removed. And this is critical. Even with advanced tools, they could not move the stone at full size. They had to reduce it. Now compare that to the statue of Ramses II, carved from a single block weighing around 1,000 tons, and the Colossi of Memnon, each tipping the scales at roughly 700 tons. Both were supposedly transported or raised without heavy metal tools. These stones still stand where they fell, defying explanation and mocking the limits of modern engineering. Today, the Thunderstone weighs around 400 tons. Still immense, still impressive, but what stands out most is this. It is not precision engineered. It is rough, organic, asymmetrical. There are no razor-sharp joins, no impossible angles, no millimeter-perfect surfaces. It looks exactly like what it is. A monumental stone shaped with immense effort using the best tools of the time. Now compare the Thunderstone to some of the largest stones ever moved by humans in ancient times. At Baalbek in Lebanon, the 3 Trilithon monoliths weigh around 750 to 800 tons, and were lifted and placed over 4 meters high in the temple foundation, with unfinished stones in the quarry estimated up to 1,000 tons, untouched for millennia. In Egypt's Great Pyramid, the largest granite blocks weigh up to 60 tons and had to be hoisted roughly 43 meters above the desert floor, stacked with incredible precision. And in the Andes, sites like Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo contain stones weighing up to 300 tons, many of which lifted several meters high to form perfectly fitted walls that have resisted earthquakes for centuries. Even with these feats, the methods they used remain one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. Compared to these ancient megablocks, the Thunderstone's journey still pales next to the challenges faced by the builders thousands of years earlier. Stones weighing hundreds of thousands of tons, placed with surgical precision, lifted to extreme heights, fitted together so tightly that a blade cannot pass between them, and yet we are told they were shaped with stone hammers, wooden sleds, and ropes. The Thunderstone proves something very important. Even with metal tools, industrial era metallurgy, engineers, planning, frozen ground to assist them, and years of labor, moving a single massive stone was almost unimaginable, and it resulted in something far less precise than what we see in the ancient world. The Thunderstone does not explain the ancient megaliths. It does the opposite. It shows us how hard this task really was, and how many advantages are required, how much technology is needed, and yet, ancient sites display a level of precision and ambition that exceeds this by orders of magnitude, with no records, no plans, no written explanations. Which leaves us with an uncomfortable question. If this was nearly impossible a few hundred years ago with advanced tools, what does it say about the people who did it thousands of years ago? The Thunderstone isn't proof of simple, primitive tools. It's proof that ancient engineers had knowledge and technology far beyond what we assume. And until we face that truth, the scale of what they achieved will continue to defy explanation.